meeting decorum, order of agenda, things that you guys might want to adjust for this 2-year term. I'm also today gonna leave you guys with some homework to start thinking about priorities and realistic things you want to get done in the next 2 years. Because there are dozens and dozens of things we need to get done, but we need to give some direction, especially to some of our boards and commissions. They can kind of get confused on what does the board want us working on. So I'll leave you with some homework to take home and just think about. And then the rest of it will be short sessions, like 45 minutes. Maybe we can do 2 at once, where you'll meet directly with department heads. And then they'll go through their scope of responsibility, what they're working on. And so we'll meet with Aaron Utilities. We'll have a much more in-depth welcome to water world. And wastewater, how that works, and licensing and permitting and taps and fees and all those things with Aaron. And then we'll also meet with Dave to talk about Parks and Rec. You'll meet with Lisa in community development in regard to land use issues. And Dolores does a short session administratively on follow-up items in regard to the clerk and records and things like that that she needs. So we'll do general housekeeping, not tonight, but at our next one. Okay, but tonight we just really want to get through basics, and Brandon wants a chance to meet you guys, and you will have his undivided attention, not in a meeting setting, if there's things you want to ask him. Yeah. So he can clarify those for you. Okay.
Can I ask one? We talked about water, and can we visit the Red Barn and get a handle?
The pump station?
Oh, for 14 years I've been looking at.
You've never gone in there?
I've never gone in there.
Oh, we went on a tour there once.
Yeah, no, I didn't know. So
we'll take it.
One of the infrastructure issues, of which is going to be water, and especially the Apple Valley line.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see that.
Of course, no, it's interesting.
Yeah.
To see that that facility, and to know that each one of those motors is about $300,000.
Yeah.
That pump at that rate. So sure, we'll add that to the tour schedule for sure. So I put together a basic agenda. This is actually, the mayor from here on out will be setting agendas with me on business agendas. But tonight, I just really wanted you to have a chance to introduce yourselves, make any comments you want to make about working together. We're going to go through 2 PowerPoints, one just on roles and responsibilities, so you all understand the role of the mayor pro tem, and trustees. And I made a worksheet, mayor-elect, of all the different commissions that people can put their preferences on. Yeah. And then we're gonna go through a bunch of legal considerations. That's gonna be the chunk of tonight. And then the last items we'll walk through the 420 agenda, so you all know what to expect that night. I will hand out the current policy on meeting decorum and the order of business. And Mayor-elect wants to go through another homework project, give you the current legislative policy for you to review, and he would like to make amendments to that in your first couple meetings, so wants you to look at that as well.
Yeah, and then it's more of a suggestion of things that we might want to change, and I'm open to suggestions from anybody else on other things.
Yeah.
And on that, in case we don't forget it later, is some of the numbers may not correspond to what the policy in here, because I might have had to select the prior version. So, but I think you can build on what I wrote.
Yeah, when we get to each of these items, we'll go through your folder and find it, so you know what you're looking at. Yeah. And then that last bit of homework will be questions for you to ponder. So in case you haven't had time yet since the election to go, what have I gotten into? And then before we leave, and while I have you all together, I really need to try to grab some dates that we're all together. It's really hard to do it email. so that we can get the second session scheduled as soon as possible. And just start talking about people's schedules, because I know some of you work full-time during the day, some of you don't. I don't really know everybody's lifestyles and habits yet, so. Mark, would you like to go first? You want to introduce or make any comments to your new board?
I think I know everybody.
Yeah, I know everybody.
No, just that, the sort of see this in the legislative policy stuff, but I want to emphasize that I want to be open to requests from trustees and suggestions from trustees about things the board should do. We worked it pretty well the last session, but in prior terms, it's varied by mayor and board members too. When I first joined the board in 2018, there were a couple of board members who'd been there before I was. And I talked to them, what do you plan on doing this next year? I'm just gonna sit here and
Like scroll
vote on what they're gonna put in front of me. What do you mean? Well, they felt like they were roadblocked in bringing ideas that hadn't come through the staff or a board and commission or the mayor and town administrator. So why? Well, we've tried it before, we couldn't get anywhere. I said, that's not right. So actually, these policies you see that deal with things like trustee agenda requests, when do they make it to the agenda, reflect some prior issues in that. I just want to say, I'm open to that. If you got something you want the board to consider, one of the reasons you have 7 different elected representatives is because you all know different people and you have different inputs, and somebody has an idea that I've never heard of, whether I think it's any good or not. Constituents and you are entitled to have it heard and considered by the board. And it may be one of the things with trustee requests that's difficult is it doesn't, if it's something you want heard pretty soon, the staff sometimes doesn't have time to go do all the research and see the normal cover memos and stuff you do. But even if the discussion the first time around is, oh, this is something the rest of the majority of the board would like to pursue, then we can send it to staff and do the research and recommendations and things. But don't hesitate. If there's something you want us to consider, let me know. So that's, I want to open this up to trustees. I believe more input is better.
Anybody else? Do you wanna make any comments? Amy?
Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're really, I do want to let you know that, you have just come through a pretty tough time. It's really a challenging few weeks to wade through all of that, so congratulations. And this folder is one you'll take home. This is from the Colorado Municipal League. It's a welcome packet to all newly elected officials in the state. And this is full of resources for you. Just so you know that it has how to amplify efforts, the civility pledge again, and then their most updated handbook on ethics and liability. There's really nice basic tips to just read this before you start out. And then CML offers something called the Muniversity. So if you plan to continue down this path for a while, you can kind of get your little degree on knowledge about municipal leadership. So there are all sorts of resources in this packet that go out to all state elected officials. And then every summer in June is the Colorado Municipal League Conference. And we usually try to set aside for a couple of people to be able to go to that if you want. And that is other elected officials, mayors and trustees and council members from all over the state. And it's 3 days together, going to sessions and going to
meetings, dinners.
and then some of
What's
it's just open table discussion.
Yeah.
But this is something I'd love for you to read before the 20th. This is all just the highlights on how municipalities work. So this is your new little guide from the state, for the state level. All right, you will get a monthly newsletter from CML. We're going to be removing those mailboxes. And so I think I'll be setting up some mailboxes in the hallway over here. But what I try to do is on, trustee night, I'll look in your mailbox and put it in front of you, because it's easy to forget to check your mailbox. So you will have a mailbox at town hall. Okay? Anybody else want to make any comments? Amy?
She's probably gonna.
I'm sorry, I'm not there in person. And I know Doug, we're neck and neck, and I just appreciate everyone, including both of us, and hopefully it's not overly awkward, but I will know more. It sounds like next Wednesday, certainly by the end of next week. So just thanks for including both of us, and what we learned tonight will serve the town in a variety of ways. So
I agree. Nicely said, Amy, and I'm proud to be here. I can learn, and I'm sure it won't go to waste.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, why don't we go out to our PowerPoints? Okay, so some of you have been through board and commission training or planning commission training. This is gonna be very similar to that, parts of this. And then others of you, I believe you haven't had any. Doug, have you been through some training
We
with the
had a-
IGA?
Many.
Yeah,
one with the
okay.
IPA.
So,
You're not sharing. I can.
We're not?
No.
we'll go back,
If you can go back to Zoom.
even though it's shown there.
Yeah, that's
They
your
don't
monitor.
say sharing anymore.
There you go.
Oh, there. Okay,
That's sure.
got it. Can you see it, Amy?
We're good.
Okay. I was going to mine that shows this. Okay, I'm not gonna go through the exact training we do for boards and commissions. I've updated this to really only be specific to you. So there's a lot of information that is not here on how our boards and commissions function. That is certainly another session if anybody wants to, and I try to host 2 a year for new members. And so we probably will host one. Usually we try to do it May before school's out. So we'll see if we have enough new members to do that. So you're welcome to go to that. In that case, we go through how municipalities are formed and where they come from and all of that. This is the first one we're gonna start on. So there are no 2 communities in Colorado that are alike. And I'm telling you that because oftentimes we will go, well, in Loveland, they do this, or in Ned, they do this, or whatever. And it's really, every community is individualized. However, every community in Colorado is either a statutory town
Or city.
or city, statutory city, and, or a home rule. So a statutory town, which that's what we are a mayor council form of government. What that means is that our mayor is elected by popular vote. They are not, they're not selected by like the group of trustees. And we are what is called a weak mayor system. That means the mayor has the same authority, has 1 vote, just like the rest of the trustees. It is not like in Denver where the mayor is a full-time employee with benefits in an office and works 60 hours a week. We are a mayor council, okay? That is compared to a council manager form of government, which is the usual case for home rule cities and statutory cities. So if you can see the difference of that, the mayor and the council hold all the responsibility and I don't want to say power, what's a good word for that? Authority versus a council manager form of government, which is when there's a city council, Longmont's a council manager. And then they have a city manager who has a voice, doesn't have a vote, but he has a strong voice and sits up at the table with the board and is part of all the discussion. I am not that in this role. I have been a city manager in my previous life, but in Lyons, I'm a statutory town administrator. And so I don't have that same voice. I take my direction from the board of trustees, not from the mayor, not from individual trustees. I take it from the group. And so it's kind of hard to get used to that, because it's really easy, especially in a small town, when I see one of you and you're like, hey, could you take care of that, you know? And it's like something simple, I don't have any problem with that. But no direction, serious policy direction from individuals, only from the group as a whole. So statutory towns all have boards of trustees. Statutory cities have a city council. Okay, and statutory towns, if we don't have a local ordinance to address an issue, it falls back on what is the state law.
We also can't override state law. Home rules can override state law in certain situations. But we have to follow state law if it exists. There's certain situations we can be a little more flexible, but we can never contradict state law as a statutory city or town in this case.
Town, yeah,
Even if our ordinances pre-exist the state law?
For the most part, yes, yeah.
mhm. So many communities, especially larger ones, adopt a home rule structure. And then they have the ability and the staffing to adopt rules that are more stringent than state code or state law or, and just more
It's different,
flexibility,
it's
yeah,
different.
yeah. So just for your information, I have served both city manager and home rule, so I've kind of had a taste of all of these kinds of setups. But just so you know, no two communities are the same. So you could have another community that's a town with a board of trustees, but they have their home rule, and so they're different than us. You can have a statutory and a big city, that's a whole different ballgame, so, different titles.
A big reason a lot of people do home rule is home rule cities have the ability to do their own taxes.
Yes,
They can set their own taxes, and we're pretty much dependent for the most part on the state tax code, so.
yeah, it's gets brought up every few years here. Do we want to become a home rule so that the state's not telling us how we're doing our housing and how we're doing this? It's a big project to undergo.
You have a charter commission which develops a charter.
Takes a couple of years to
Um,
make it.
We do that quite a bit for people who want to, and there is no size limitation on home rule.
Mm-mm.
There are communities much smaller than Lyons, which are home rule, but typically the larger communities are home rule and the smaller ones are statutory.
That's kind of how it
It's
is.
a major expensive process
It
to
is.
convert though, and
Yeah,
when I first got on the board, Deb Anthony was the town clerk and somebody suggested, we should look into that. She says, give me 6 months, cause that's when I'm gonna quit.
sorry, it's a big project. Anybody know how many municipalities there are in Colorado? Did you see that slide I went back fast? I want somebody to guess
537.
lower.
254,
To what?
254,
Very close,
something like that.
272.
All right.
Okay, largest city,
Denver.
smallest town.
Holyoke.
Nope,
Niwot, if they've incorporated. it.
it's in Denver Metro. area.
Cherry Hills?
Nope,
Oh, it's
Sheridan,
Lakeside.
It's like 5 people.
Lakeside.
But it has, I think I haven't looked at it lately, their population at one point was 32. But, yeah, but they are an incorporated municipality. So we know city councils go with cities, right? Board of trustees go with towns. What makes the difference between a city and a town? Population.
Cause couldn't we be a city, but we
We
chose
could
to
be a city. What's the population at which you can choose to be a city? 2,000. So when a community hits 2,000, they can choose to go from a town to a city if they'd like. I don't picture us as
The
a
city
city.
of Lions just
Yeah.
does it, so.
Doesn't mean anything.
Anybody, let's see, there are 2 other categories of municipalities in in Colorado, and this is fun when you go to conferences.
Yeah.
We also have villages. You heard that? Know any villages?
Greenwood Village?
Greenwood Village, someone said Cherry Creek earlier,
Cherry Hills.
Cherry Hills Village, Log Lane Village, there's quite a few villages. And then we have 1 in the whole state territory.
Territorial government, yeah.
Anybody know that is 1 in the whole state, they never even become a village. Georgetown is a territory. And in territories, they call their elected officials aldermen. That's what you were used to, alderman. Yeah, so that's what I mean. When somebody says,
Yeah.
well, they do this or there's no comparison. It just, they could be all sorts of different types of,
And what's the percentage, home rule versus statutory?
It's a good question. I mean, population, there's no doubt there's way more home rule than there is statutory, but in terms of actual number of splitting up, it's probably slightly more statutory, I would think, than home rule. I mean, there's all sorts of little guys.
Yeah,
But there's so many people who have also converted too. I mean, there's some really
There's been a
small
lot of
communities,
conversions.
really small communities that have converted to home rule. And so it's probably, I'd say slightly more statutory than home rule, but not a lot.
What's a town site?
A town site.
Allen's
Probably
Park is a
35.
town site.
Oh,
So they're
unincorporated.
unincorporated. So
My
they're,
law.
yeah, so they're unincorporated areas. So, we have incorporated as a town, right? So we have a local government that controls the town of Lyons. If you're unincorporated, they're controlled by the Board of County Commissioners. There is no city council, right? There's
They
an
made a
area.
district.
Yeah, there's like an area that's in that city. So Niwot's close one, Allen's Park, Evergreen's very large one, where there's control by the county commissioners. There's no city council.
Well, does that apply to the parts of Lions that can't vote?
They're unincorporated.
They're unincorporated Boulder County. So they're the same essentially in how they're treated, but like an Evergreen, right? It's a consolidated area that operates under the Board of County Commissioners rather than just kind of dispersed.
Okay.
So there's your government lesson for the night. Okay, special districts are different, okay? And most of you probably know this, but the Lyons Regional Library District, the Lyons Fire Protection District, and the Watershed Districts are their own taxing and policy-making authorities. Okay, we do not have any authority over them, nor they of us. They have their own bylaws or rules or whatever they're following. They all have their ability to collect taxes and pay for their services. The public gets really confused about this. The public gets really confused about county and town issues as well.
You hear people call it the fire department.
It is not a department.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just, that's to clarify that. Okay, different roles. So the majority of you in the room are well, you're all trustees. Okay, you're all trustees, including the mayor is a trustee. So according to our Lyons Municipal Code, which is going to become your good friend. We used to keep hard copies of it, but now it's online. And at our next session, I'm gonna walk you through, I think I've been remiss of this in the past, walk you through a couple of our websites and show you where to easily find some of these things. But the Lyons Municipal Code is on the Town of Lyons website. It's under Government, Lyons Municipal Code. That is all of our ordinances, which in a municipality are the policies that the board has adopted. So when people say, where's your policy manual? That's our Lyons Municipal Code. All of these come from the Lyons Municipal Code. So in the code, it says the trustee's role is a 2-year term with a max of 3 consecutive terms. Mrs. Laverne, famous, right? She served 16 terms. So she would go 3 terms, take off 2 years, go 3 more, take off 2 years. And that's how she did that. You can take a break and come back.
Is that what she's doing now?
Wouldn't be surprised. In Lyons, every trustee represents the people and the good of the overall community. We do not have wards. That's another difference between some of these cities and towns. They're broken into wards. Now, we could decide we want to go for wards. I've actually thought sometimes that would be healthy to have someone representing Lyons Valley Park and someone, could be healthy so we get representation from all over. But it would be much harder to find people to run in every ward. But here, you all represent all wards. Okay, you can't ignore the folks wherever you're not, so you represent everybody. You are all expected to work in the best interest of the community, not an individual, not a neighborhood, the community. Your other trustee role is to lay the future course for the municipality. We have a document that's supposed to do that. Do you know what that's called? The comprehensive plan. State law requires a comprehensive plan for every municipality. So we all have one. We all have to update it at least every 10 years. It is a requirement. That's not something we get a choice on unless home rules do they?
They do it too.
They,
Yeah, I don't know if it, I can't remember if it's required, but they do it. Yeah.
so the comp plan is supposed to set the vision and the priorities of how they want us to get there over the long term. Trustees are to establish and stay focused on policy and know the difference between policy, which is your role, and administrative issues, which is my role. And basically the what versus the how we get there. So you guys can say, Victoria, wildfire mitigation, we want to adopt these 5 strategies. It's then my job to figure out through my staff and resources and budget and partnerships, how we're gonna get there. And report that back to you. Your other role is to adopt the annual budget. And make sure that it is balanced. We cannot have an unbalanced budget. That is a state law as well. We must present a balanced budget. You guys,
Have a surplus?
you can have a surplus. We are, and we'll get into this, we can get into the individual departments. We have the general fund, which is funded mostly by tax dollars. And then we have the utilities. Those are called enterprise funds. They can have a profit. They, in bigger communities, have separate utility boards
Yep.
that run it like a business.
Slash
Here-
PUC, they're kind of
Yeah.
about, yeah.
Here, you guys wear all sorts of hats. And actually, I started making a list of hats for our next meeting, and you wear about 8 different hats that you're gonna have to learn those different roles. And when you wear that hat, it's hard to get out of this hat sometimes, but you have to. Well,
Utility engineering board is.
Or no, what did you, that fund, like?
Enterprise.
enterprise funds are those that are the utilities that aren't using tax dollars, but they're using fees.
Mm.
Customer fees. And so they have different rules on their accounting and they have different rules on reserves and some of that. Your other job, according to the code, is to confirm appointments to boards and commissions and to serve as a liaison. What's typically happened here is the mayor selects, but I think you would say you would expect if anyone objected, that they would let you know that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if anybody has ever objected. And then, so that's
There were-
a place where the code doesn't really reflect their practices.
Yeah, you know, I think the practice has been that so we have an online application to boards and commissions. When someone applies, the mayor has typically met them along with the chair of that group. And you could include the liaison. I think you've been included in some of those. To meet that applicant and see if their skill set complements that group or if there's another one, or, you know, we want some diversity in the backgrounds or something. But the mayor that's the point where if someone did object, you know, they should speak up at that point.
And I would say if as a liaison, or if you're just here, that citizen X has been proposed or has applied for
Mhm.
this commission, and you know that there's some reason that, you know, they may not fit well within the town of Lyons or
Mhm.
dishonest or had
Yeah.
3 felonies on their record or something, let me know.
You know, we might wanna look at that. We might wanna look at that.
A little late, huh?
That might be something we wanna look at, is maybe you want to start sharing applications
I've thought about
with
that.
the entire group, but there's quite the,
Then you get
It's
into open meetings issues and, yeah, it's.
but that's why it's typically included whoever the the liaison to that group is, and the mayor make that decision. The other authority you have is the authority to fill BOT vacancies. So there's,
Within 60 days of vacancy being declared, so. If someone were to leave, we're moving out of town, right, one of you, and we need to fill that vacancy, we can do so when the vacancy is declared. And then within 60 days, the board will have a vote to replace that person. If they do not, we have to go to a special election. Special elections are very expensive, so we try not to do that.
And that happens more than you think. I think each of my last 3 terms, I think we've had it.
Yeah.
It happens, and
Yeah.
life happens and things change.
and-
And
For
then,
people who are residents when elected, do they become ineligible if they leave?
Technically,
They
yes.
change their residence?
There's been all sorts of interesting kind of
Hmm.
fights in Thornton in particular about to what extent is person a resident or not, basically. If you have a vacation home in Florida and you're going back and forth, I mean, what point are you no longer a resident? Kind of gray, but technically, when you were no longer a resident, you were ineligible to serve.
actually, it's one of the, this is just highlights, you guys, you'll have to look at the actual code. I think there is one in there that says you've been a resident for a certain length
Yeah,
of
it's also
time.
state law, yeah.
12 months,
For a year, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, state law every year.
Yep. And then, trustees may not direct, request, or influence the appointment or dismissal of any employee except me. And trustees are not to give orders to staff. Again, that is not in regard to something simple. We want you to tell us if, oh, I saw this board is broken here and whatever, to just tell them. What this means again is, you can't under direct, you can't tell someone to drop what they're doing and go do something that's your priority. Or you can't say this needs to be done before you do this. So,
Let's say do a 4-inch curb instead of a 6-inch curb. Sorry, man.
yeah, yeah. We do have a chart of a organizational chart. Oh, I didn't get it printed, but I can do that. I kind of like to think of it like an hourglass with sand in it. And all the people of Lions are the sand, and they filter down through the 7 of you to be representing them. And then when that middle comes at pinch point, you guys tell me, oh, this is what we want you to do. And then it's up to me with my handful of people to carry it back out to all the people. So when you have things like that, you can, as a group, you individually, you can talk to me and ask me to do things. I don't care. If I ever feel like it should be a group issue, I will tell you that should be a board decision instead of just one of you telling me something. But I have a very open door. You're welcome to stop by any day. Talk to me, call. You don't have to wait for the board meetings. If you have a question on the packet, you find an error in the packet, let me know. We are here, staff are here to make you guys look good, to make good decisions. And we don't need to be calling people out in public settings, it's good to just call us. We're here most of the time.
A practice I've always tried to follow in that area is if I need to communicate with a department head or something, I have Aaron a question about utilities or something like that. If it's anything like policy related, I always copy Victoria on it. She should know
Yeah.
what the communication.
That is actually a protocol that if you are writing any of my staff, that you CC me, because then I know what is being asked and then I'm in the loop with knowing what's going on, because there's a lot to juggle and that is something I just ask, and the boards have always been good about doing that. Okay, that's the trustees role. Here's the mayor's, 2-year term, 4-year terms max. Same things as you guys. The difference is they presided the meetings and are the executive head of the town.
You
And
have to sign things.
the next one means,
Clear
signatory authority.
Yeah.
So, I do need you between now and the 20th to meet with Dolores, and we need to go sign bank documents so that you have access to signing checks. You and the pro tem will have to do that. And then, we'll get you hooked up on DocuSign, or you can sign, AP in person still, but it can be done either way. The mayor does have the right to declare proclamations. So you guys can sure if there's something is important that we're missing, you sure can go to that person and say, I think we need to proclaim Bee Week, or whatever it is. So, but the mayor gets to decide which of those we're doing. That's one of their prerogatives. They can also attend any board and commission meeting, but as a non-voting member. And then any other powers and duties conferred by the Board of Trustees. So if you guys give additional powers, you may do so. And then, the mayor is the media spokesperson for the town.
Oh, boy.
The other media spokesperson is me.
By a ton.
So what that means,
There's some hidden in the back of my closet.
so what that means is when you get a call from CPR or Channel 9 and they say, oh, we hear this is happening in Lyons, you need to say, the mayor and town administrator are the spokespeople, you need to talk to them. Because we don't need 7 different versions of that happening. Now, you still have your First Amendment, right? If you decide you want to give a comment about something, you just have to say, this is my personal opinion. This is not the opinion of the Board of Trustees. But we are the official spokespersons, like during emergencies and big announcements, so that we have our message coordinated.
For the, board and commission.
Yeah.
Attendance, does that at all apply to board trustees?
You can go to, they're public meetings, so you can go to those. The only kind of caveat to all that, if it's a quasi judicial matter, we'll talk about that. Then you may not want to go to that for.
'Cause I wear my like Simply Be hat
Yep.
at the EAB meeting,
Mhm, yeah,
so
that's a
I'm
tough one.
hoping to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
balance
Yeah.
that.
Well, the other thing is, if all of you went to every meeting, we'd have to post every single meeting as both in that meeting and a BOT meeting. So we really do like it to be the liaison
But that would
and
be 2, right? There's allowed to be 2?
Yep.
Okay.
2 without having to post a BOT meeting. So we post it as the EAB, but people, they need to know if you guys are meeting too. We really, if there's something big going on, we, like when there's something at the library that involves the whole community, we just post it as a meeting. But
Safer that way.
if you know they're gonna be there, let us know. We don't wanna get in any hot water in that area. So the mayor pro tem, for April 20th, you're gonna be prepared to announce your mayor pro tem?
It's like Jen Wingard has agreed to do that.
Oh, okay, so Jen Wingard is gonna be the mayor pro tem. These are the duties outlined in the municipal code for that role, and I'll make sure she knows all these things. She will also have a signatory authority, so that when the mayor is out of town and we need checks signed, we have another person. And you guys will confirm that appointment as well. Okay? Stop anytime, questions anytime. Town administrator, this is how it's laid out in the Lyons Municipal Code. I'm the chief administrative officer responsible directly to the Board of Trustees as a whole. I don't report to just the mayor. You guys will, it's an odd thing, so you'll figure it out. I am the only employee that has an employment contract instead of following the personnel handbook. Right now, the terms of my contract are good through 2028. The terms can, but you guys still have the authority. I am an at-will employee that I can be terminated at any time.
There
And
may be repercussions of that,
there are repercussions of that, but
Financial and otherwise.
it is a contract. Mine is a contract. It's a little different.
Yeah.
My job is to oversee the day-to-day operations of the town, and have exclusive authority over all employee issues. Now, if you have a problem with one of my employees, what usually happens is the mayor or a trustee or whoever pulls me aside and said, this is what's the perception is out there, and it's up to you if you want to address it. But I know that if I don't, that then those consequences are on me. So, but I'm the only one that, I can appoint and remove all employees except the attorney. He is a direct report to you as well. We just had an evaluation this year and re-signed his contract as well. The other is the judge. If you haven't met Judge Brown, we have court in this room. The second Thursday of every month. It's open to the public. It's at 9:30 in the morning. I think you should come and watch it. It's pretty neat. And, but you also oversee her contract and, the ability to remove that position at any time, just per the
For
contract.
cause for the judge that you
Yep.
can't remove her for at will, but it has to be a reason.
Are those contracts all drafted by the BOT?
They're all approved by the BOT, so usually I end up drafting them, or the town ends up drafting them, and then the BOT sees them, then approves them, so they're all public documents.
I don't think that's true. Yours isn't, is it?
Yeah, I know.
The parts can be cut.
No, it's 100% online, yeah.
I thought there were parts that were,
Redacted.
yeah.
Not mine,
Okay.
maybe in the past there was. but-
Okay, that could be. My job is, to direct the work of the staff in implementing the vision of the board. And in implementing, enforcing policy decisions, enforcement of ordinances and laws, making recommendations. This one changes board to board. Some boards have asked me to always make a recommendation on issues. Others say, we will let you know when we want a recommendation. So you guys will figure that out, how you want to function that way. Always welcome to give individual recommendations if the board doesn't want it as a whole. My job and, my background, is a master's in public administration. I've been doing this almost 30 years now. And, I, what was I gonna say about that? Have had a lot of experience. I started my career out in Fort Morgan as their city manager, and well, actually, they have a city superintendent. And then they went home rule and made it a city manager. Yeah. Fort Morgan, after Fort Morgan, I went back to the Midwest where my parents were aging and spent 7 years in Albert Lee, Minnesota. If you've ever been there, anybody been to Albert Lee? Yeah, it's right on that junction of two interstates, so it's a popular drive-through spot. And then I came here to Lyons, and now I've been here about 16 years. So, but I do have a master's. I also am a member with the International City Managers Association. I am tied to an ethics clause with them as well. Have to have training and keep those things up. So that's kind of my background there with being able to make recommendations. I also have we have a listserv of all the all the managers of Boulder County. We meet in person once a month together to make sure we are all aware of the same issues affecting us and getting the feedback from those groups. And then we have a listserv throughout the state with all these CML folks that we have instant access to sample policies and how are you guys dealing with this? And you have a listserv for all the attorneys at the state level. So we have a really big network of immediate information that we can help you with when you need it. My job is also, to advise trustees on the fiscal state of the town and to prepare and submit that balanced budget. You guys tweak it, and then to provide you monthly statements on the finances. And then to support the advisory boards and commissions by providing a staff liaison. So every board and commission has a staff liaison and a board liaison. And that is the methodology the community has chosen to really try to keep communication level. I mean, you're getting staff input, you're getting the elected officials input, you're getting the public's input. We are so small. I have about 18 staff. In the summer that goes up to like 25. And we are a full service community plus electric utility, which most don't have. And so we really rely on our boards and commissions in this community to provide some expertise that we don't have on staff. It's pretty easy. We wear a lot of hats and we're not experts on lots of things that big cities have. So we really rely on our boards and commissions to provide some of that expertise. And then I'm the other media spokesperson so that the mayor and both from a policy perspective and an operating perspective, we're given the same message. I do have a table of organization. I was going to bring it, but I'll update it now that it's 26. I don't know that it's changed since then. Anybody in yellow is an independent contractor. Here's the residents, here's you guys. Funnels through me to my department heads. So we have a director of finance, utilities and engineering, parks and public works, the town clerk, and community relations and programs. You guys are, the boards and commissions are responsible to you. The sheriff is responsible to you, his contract. And then those, the attorney, judge, prosecutor. So I will update, get the latest version of this and put it, make sure you guys get it, so you can look at it and put names next to it or whatever you want to do. Okay. All right, we have our first little piece and then I'll be done in
Okay.
5 minutes. Okay, here's our boards and commissions. We have a very sophisticated board and commission system for a town our size. What do you see?
I have not seen a town or city that has more boards than commission. That's a fact. You go up to Castle Rock has less boards and commissions
Yes.
than Lyons.
It is true. And I told you part of that is because, and this can change, you guys have that ability. Actually today I was asked again, about every year I'm asked, is there some way to fold EAB and SFC together and maybe we rename it?
Yeah, it's been suggested
Er-
several times by several people, and they're not like.
Yeah.
Including Mayor Rugged, you and I talked about it
Yeah.
before, it's.
So these are our boards and commissions as identified in the municipal code. You can add one, you can remove one, you can combine them, whatever you need to do, but it has to be done by ordinance. So in your folder behind the, I think it's behind the agenda, is a list of all of the boards and commissions that have liaisons. Mayor-elect has asked that if in the next few days, you could look at that list and put a 1, 2, and 3 next to your top choices of what boards and commissions you would be interested in liaison to. Because we had to figure out how to get a representative to all of those groups, and we'd like it to be something you have an interest in.
Note that there's 11 of them up there, except for, other than the Board of Trustees, and there's 7 trustees counting the mayor, and so.
Oh, that's why the list in your packet's different. I took off trustees, I took off Board of Adjustments,
Oh,
doesn't
Board
have
of
a
Justice
liaison.
is up here, but
They don't have a liaison.
that's
So
true.
the list you have is all those that need a liaison by code.
Full disclosure, the DCDC meets twice a month and the UEB meets twice a month. I
Yes.
think the rest of them are all monthly,
Yes,
I believe.
and if you don't, you don't have to do it right here if you don't want, but you'd like those back if you could get those. Please do 1, 2, 3s. Some of you will have 2 boards and commissions. And you can serve as many as you have time to serve and whatever you guys decide. But if you need to know when and where they meet, that is online under boards and commissions. It says the night of the week and time. Or you can ask me. I know most of those off by heart.
Do any of them meet over the weekend? Probably not, but just check.
None of them meet over the weekend. Some of their projects they're doing might. You know, like if EAB's having a stream cleanup, they're probably
Right.
doing that on a Saturday. Student advisory does, they do things on the weekends. The rest, arts and humanities, they have a lot of events, so. Any questions on any of these to know if you have an interest? They're all described fully in the Lyons Municipal Code with what their responsibility and scope is.
Which are required by
Law?
state law.
Planning commission, you also require to have a zoning commission, we can fold them together, so we've done that.
And
Board
Board
of
of
Adjustments.
Those are the only 2. Those are the
Wow.
only 2 required.
And a lot of places, that's all they have. That's it. So.
Yeah, and then in other communities, there's either a staff department for all these things or. It gets.
The board handles it all, like, I represent the city of Los Animas and, the city council there handles most of this stuff.
I'll just add that, having served on a couple of these. These people are very, very intelligent, very smart. They have expertise that's way beyond our ken. I mean, when you look at the UEB and the people that are on it and their expertise and the suggestions and the advice they come up with, it's outstanding, just outstanding. I walked into my first ecology advisory board meeting 12 years ago, and they all introduced themselves, and I went.
Yeah.
They're very important.
So any questions on this page just offhand before?
I have just another scheduling question. I think EDC meets in the mornings. Is there any other
8:30.
board, yeah? Any others that you know of that meet in the morning? Because that's,
No, most meet late afternoon or
Okay.
evening.
I was really surprised to hear that.
So as the board decides,
Somebody's not plugged in.
Where your power shark's down on maybe.
oh,
Looks like you're plugged in, but maybe you're sure.
there it is. Take care of it. The board, the board or commission itself can decide when they want to meet. So usually in the January of every year, they're supposed to select a chair and a vice chair and a recorder, and they can change. As members change, they change when they meet. The rules say that any agent of the town, which these are to meet at a time that is available to the public. They must meet in a public site, all those sorts of things,
Accessible site.
accessible.
Talk about that.
So would love for you to do your homework. If you can get it before you leave, great. If you can't, please try to get in that by what, Monday?
I'm out of
Oh, you're
town
out of-
Tuesday. I'll be
Tuesday.
back now.
That'll give you some time. If you have questions about any of them, call me or it's in the code, okay? The rest of mine, I'm not going through tonight. This is the regular board and commission training. With them, we go through their authority, we go through their roles, we go through their duties. We talk about policy and structure and what the different roles are in those groups. This is kind of a, interesting one.
Victoria, one thing I will say as liaison, one of your, I don't know if it's an official duty, but one of the practical duties that you need to pay attention to is, despite all the trainings we've done, it happens year after year after year after year. One of our duties is to kind of monitor them and make sure that they do follow the open meetings laws and.
Yeah.
And
they have to monitor each other.
They say, okay,
So,
we're out of time here. Everybody email me your thoughts and we'll put it all together. That's an illegal.
We're not supposed to do that.
And sometimes you have a role as liaison of saying, wait,
Yes, you
time
do.
out, and how you do it, so.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do sometimes, because you're
It is.
like playing lawyer.
It is. I do offer the training. Some people have never been there. I think they should be required to go through it, and some are much more lax than others. Some want the staff to do the agenda, some want the board person to do the agenda. It's actually
Shouldn't
supposed to
do, probably.
be, it's supposed to be the chair and the group should be setting your agendas. But this is kind of an interesting slide where you guys appoint the board or commission. They are supported by the staff and they are to be reporting back to you. So it's a circular relationship with the staff here to help provide any research, support, whatever they need. All of that having to be done between what is the expectation of the board, because you guys have priorities to try to get done. And if you're trying to do wildfire mitigation, you need your boards and commissions focused on whatever might pertain to them regarding wildfire mitigation, not working on
Whatever they want.
how are we going to, are we gonna license cats? They need to be functioning between any expectations you have and they make recommendations back to you. None of them, except the planning commission and board of adjustments, have any policy authority. Okay, they are all advisory, except those two.
In a revolving loan fund,
Oh,
which is own special.
yeah, that was down here, they're their own special group. So, okay, so that's all I'm going through tonight. There's a whole nother hour on boards and commissions, which we are not going to do, and you're welcome to attend when you are more situated. You're gonna be drinking from a water hose for the next 6 months. Some of you have had a little bit, but especially Mariah, Doug, Amy and Julie have had some training through planning commission. It's a lot. You are going to you won't believe how much you don't know, And, you just learn such a variety of issues from, wastewater to birds to all sorts of things. So it's fun. It's fun learning all that. Okay, so anybody need a quick break? Everybody know where the bathroom is? Yes,
I don't actually, but.
you don't,
I don't
okay,
need it
so
right
right
now.
around the corner,
It's like right there, but through
Got it.
right there is one restroom. There's also one up front if you need that. So, and there's one secret bathroom. You know.
Outside, no, I'm just kidding.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
We go on
It's the
our,
third tree to the left.
when we go on our BOD breaks during the meetings, there's one little bathroom way back around the corner that some people go back to, just because we have a few minutes for everybody. So Amy, how about you? Any questions? You stop, sure.
No, this is great. It's a lot to digest and even
Yeah.
those of us who've had a little bit of the training, it's always good refresher and
Yeah,
thanks for
So-
leading us through it.
well, I'm just hitting the highlights tonight, so.
Yeah.
So the next part of the meeting is all gonna be legal, so I'm gonna switch over, Brendan, to your
Okay,
presentation.
when I see her this afternoon.
Yeah. Is that still the?
Yep, that's the best one.
Okay. So hang tight with me while I do that. Here, Brendan.
The first one.
Here's- See it?
Oh, yeah.
I know, I got so many.
Yeah,
Guys.
I'd be like 3.
I will, oh, you're in bed. I'm Chicago.
Chicago Dock Express, is right in Chicago Dock Place in Santa Fe,
Oh,
and they serve it. Chicago Dock, but without the real ingredients on it, they have one thing.
And then you have to do share and
classic, yeah. Classic.
to exit out of that, sorry.
You have to.
Yeah.
And they have great breakfast and burritos too. One of the few cheap places to eat in Santa Fe.
Yep, that's it.
Did it share?
Yep.
Amy, can you see that?
Yeah, I think it's coming. Yeah. Legal training, April 9th.
Okay, you wanna share seat?
Sure.
All right, so Brandon's gonna go legal.
So I didn't really introduce myself. I know most of you very well, but my name is Brandon. We don't really know each other. I've been town attorney of the town for 8 years now. And enjoyed it every bit of it, because we do really crazy stuff in Lyons, and I say that in a good way. And we are really like leading edge on a lot of stuff.
We are.
And first ADUs, our solar policy was very innovative, that's been copied many times now, and we do very interesting stuff in Lyons.
We did the first tiny homes.
The first tiny homes.
Ordinance in existing neighborhoods anywhere.
One of the
United
first-
States.
We couldn't find a model, so we drafted our own.
One of the first Prop 123s, one of the first a bunch of FEMA stuff they've never done before.
We were way ahead of the curve on the wildfire stuff, I feel like. There's still trying to get their wildfire resiliency codes together, so.
Yeah, we're considered very progressive from CML's perspective. That when,
We're guinea pigs.
no, we're a nice sized petri dish, actually. You know, that you're not so big that it's all unwieldy, but we have really a high participation by our residents. So it's,
Yes, we do.
yeah, and so it really is, when we go to CML and say we're with Lions, they're all like, Lions, and they always go, when you need a small town representative, they're always like, you wanna do that for Lions? It's like,
So we have a lot to cover. I don't know if we're gonna, can you,
you'll be all right.
You put it in whatever mode it was, and I don't know, it's not.
Presentation mode?
Yeah, usually press this.
Oh, so you can see that. I
Yeah.
did press that. You just can't go down one.
Everything went away now.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay, so we have a huge agenda. I'm not gonna run through all of it. Well, some of these things we're gonna do a very surface level kind of investigation at this point in time. Like, we'll come back when these things come back up. So quasi judicial, for example, when there's your first big quasi judicial hearing, we'll probably do this again.
We'll do a refresher.
And much more concentrated. And so there's gonna be stuff I'm probably gonna have time to talk about.
Which you sent an email about that one.
I did,
First.
that one, yeah.
Great.
Just because it was a pressing thing and obviously during campaign season, you know, people want to say stuff, but we have limitations, what we do. No such limitations obviously the federal government, and then we differ a lot, we have a lot more restrictions on us, what we can do.
There's another one coming soon, right, Victoria, we think,
Which one?
another quasi judicial thing about to hit, so.
Which I'm certain it's gonna come up, but I just, cause it's front of mind, since it like just came up in the last board meeting as well with that property that you sent us the quasi judicial thing about. There was like very offhand, like during the meeting, one of the residents of that property was just like, are you gonna explain this to me later? So who can I direct them to for that?
We'll be
Yeah.
going to quasi.
You will do good questions, but usually staff, you just.
Staff.
Yeah, the Victoria.
I don't have to follow that.
Got it,
Yeah,
You guys.
it doesn't apply to staff.
got it.
We can do things and not in the open, so. So that actually leads very well into open meetings law, so. Because every public body, in Colorado, that's a state or local government, is subject to open meetings law. And you may hear it sometimes referred to as sunshine law. But whenever there's public business and there's two or more, trustees in our case, that's considered a meeting. When have a meeting, it has to be publicly noticed. If you're taking official action, the public must be able to attend the proceedings. And so a lot of times, you know, we're very conscious about this rule. So for example, we have 3 existing trustees here tonight. And so we had to post this as a public meeting, even though we're not taking any official action, we're just talking doing training. Whenever there's 2 or more, it's a public meeting.
There is love.
It only applies to public business, and so it doesn't apply to everything, only public business. And what that really refers to is your policy making functions, undertaking some sort of formal action, so passing an ordinance, passing a resolution. You know, taking a vote really on anything, you know, is a formal action. And so, you know, that is a public meeting, which must be posted, the public must attend. Where it gets tricky, I think for all of you guys, is that it's not just meeting in person like we are today. It also includes things like email and social media. And so we can have a situation where if we're all talking about a public business via email or via social media, we have created a meeting, in which, you know, it has to be cured under Colorado law, which means posting it, all sorts of stuff. There is.
So if you see
Yeah.
2 trustees that commented on a Lions open discussion thing, don't be the 3rd trustee.
Don't be a third, yeah. The biggest problem
These
usually.
2 were first because they're retired.
The biggest problem we usually have with this is chain emails. Someone will say something and then people will reply to it. So usually when I send out an email or the mayor sends out an email, we say, do not reply all to this email.
We'll do that all the time.
Yeah, you can
Blind
respond.
Copying other people, because the commissions do that a lot, so we started to have to blind copy, so you couldn't reply.
You couldn't do it, yeah. Yeah, we don't usually blind copy, but it's a good practice. Yeah, it's a good practice to prevent that. And there is one exception that was created recently, it's, you know, in the world we live in, and that's if we're scheduling a meeting. For example, we all need to say what our meeting availability is. In 2021, due to COVID, the state legislature said, we need to make an exception for that, otherwise nothing can get done, basically, under that environment. And so that is the one exception, but otherwise, you know, no emailing back and forth about public business unless it's just you and somebody else. Once you add a third, you create a meeting, all that is open to the public. You probably don't want that. And there's all sorts of other problems that, you know, come out of that.
Serial.
Yeah, serial meetings, they call it.
They call it a serial meeting because like you can't write him and then turn around and write him and that a serial meeting. It's like the telephone game.
Telephone game, yeah. The idea is that we're supposed to make all of our decisions in public,
In,
right?
in this
No
Right.
secret ballots.
In the sunshine.
In the sunshine,
In the
no
light.
secret ballots, no secret votes. You can't do all the hard work behind the scenes and just come in and, do a pro forma approved without explaining to the public why. And so that's the idea behind this. Another exception to this is chance meetings or social gatherings. And so if you're Oscar Blues, there happens to be 3 trustees there, no one has to run away, right?
Very likely to
Yeah, very likely to happen, very likely to happen, especially in a small town.
We don't stand together though, I mean, just say hi and move on, and I will, me and my staff will do that, so don't be offended if we see that, cause you just don't even realize it.
Yeah,
You know, I will say, Mark, get away.
yeah, and you can't discuss, if that were to happen, say you're all at a birthday party, you're at whatever event, you're at Rocky Grass. You can't, if you are all there talking about the weather, that's fine, but if you talk about public business, again, you've created a meeting. Even though it was originally a chance, encounter, and
It's the public perception that.
there's also the perception.
Lee and Paula and I happened at the tea shop this afternoon all at the same time. We talked about baseball, that's what Paula and I did.
That's fine, yeah.
That's not, as I was leaving, I left pretty quick. There's a guy sitting watching us. I said, we
Yeah.
weren't talking about town business.
You have
Yeah.
to, people,
Yeah.
they will
Yeah.
be conspiracy theorists and they will find it,
Yeah,
over
public
one
perception is
word.
everything.
It
Yeah.
is, it's important.
We already talked about this earlier, but the other thing too is, if we do have a meeting, and this is more important for our boards and commissions, it has to be public, and it has to be accessible. And so we can't have a meeting at Oscar Blues. We can't have a meeting at someone's house. It has to be, town hall, the library, a public park, someplace that is, ADA accessible, it's public and the pay to get in. That's, I think a lot of boards and commissions run afoul of that sometimes.
Well, early years, they used to meet in people's houses.
Yeah.
And then one time, someone didn't want a particular person in their home. And then it was like, oh, no, now you have to let them in your home. And you don't want people in your home that you may not want in your
And
home.
it's liability issues, it's not our town properties, it's not covered by our insurance.
They're not to be held at a place where you are expected to spend money.
Yeah.
So there's an equity issue. So you don't want to go meet at a restaurant that's expecting you to spend money and someone from the public can't, so it's just good to stay, we have a list of facilities if you need help finding a place, but usually the library and town hall are very available.
Are special district boards subject to the same?
Yeah, they are.
They are,
They are.
mhm,
They are.
they are.
So the one exception to the open meetings rule generally is executive sessions. And so, is it based on the idea that there are some decisions that can only happen in private and be effective? If you're negotiating a contract with somebody, you don't wanna, give away all your negotiation right in public. City of Littleton for a long time was the only city in the state of Colorado which had banned executive sessions. They couldn't get anything done because of that.
Well, yeah, they go out and say, we'll go up to 500 on
Yeah.
that, and the guy's like.
Yeah.
I'll take $4.99.
Yeah, and so what actually ended up happening in Littleton, and they ended up repealing it, is like you get more secret meetings, is what ends up happening. Because people can't discuss stuff in public, so you start getting all these secret meeting kind of issues.
That was Littleton or Lakewood?
Littleton
Littleton.
was the only city in
It
Colorado.
was
that
banned
couldn't do it.
executive session.
Yeah. So they did that. There are extremely limited bases to have an executive session. And so all the time, I think, especially with new boards and city councils, like, oh, well, we don't want to talk about this in public, let's have an executive session. Like, and no, that's to fit within a very narrow box of things. The one that we probably do the most for is attorney advice. If we have a lawsuit or, enforcing something and there's, legal considerations there, we can have for attorney advice. Instruction negotiators is probably the most common one where we need to instruct staff on sensitive negotiations on a contract. Real estate is a subset of that. It's especially spelled out in the open meetings law, but it's another subset of that. And then personnel matters relating to specific employees. And so you can't have an executive session to talk about employees generally in the town of Lyons. Like, are we gonna have a 5% raise for all employees? Can't do that. What you can do is, as to individual employees, have an executive session. So Victoria's contract, my contract, department head issues, we can do all that in executive session.
We have
Except,
the ability though to say, we want it in public.
yeah, other employees do too. Any individual
can.
employee can
They
say,
can.
I want this to happen in public.
So that's why sometimes on the news, when cities are having contentious issues, the person may say, I want it in public, you know, to expose stuff, and other people wanna keep it in exec.
Yeah. And so the important thing here is the purpose of the executive session is deliberate and discuss. We can't make any final decisions or take formal action. You know, we can get direction in there, but there can be no final decision. So a very clear example of that is like a settlement agreement, right? So the town's in a lawsuit with somebody. We may discuss the settlement agreement, we may issue instructions to me or to whoever to do certain things. But we can't approve any settlement agreement in executive session. We come back out of the executive session. It's a separate resolution,
Put
we
it on the
approve it.
agenda.
Yeah. And so, that's very important. We make no decisions. Aurora's gotten in trouble for this recently. And just, it's a big deal, and a lot of things can happen if you violate that. The other thing too important about executive sessions is you keep it like on topic. Because once you kind of stray out of the lane, you open yourself up for third parties saying, well, you have the executive session for unauthorized purpose. The whole thing is public, you know, at that point in time. And so
We're
that's
good
it.
at calling each other on that too. This is very,
Yeah, we're very honest.
yeah, we're very, let's stay
Yeah.
back in here, yeah.
Yeah, we're all expected to call each other out on that. Myself, other trustees, if you see it, you know, say something, basically. And I'm not gonna get into everything, if you don't have
No.
time to get into everything here.
And we do record executive sessions, but they're not available to the public. If you were in a lawsuit, the recording can and will be used against you.
And they have a shorter time for purging than regular meetings.
Yeah,
Not very long. We keep them very short.
yeah. We like to keep them for ourselves to listen back sometimes and figure out what exactly was said and what the direction was, but yeah. As I mentioned earlier, there's consequences for this. You know, any action taken is void. You know, the courts can go and enforce all sorts of things if you didn't, you know, do it correctly. The most common remedies, you make it all public. And so again, this Aurora situation, there are very contentious issues with a council member. They didn't follow the statute correctly, and there was lots of things said against each other that they probably didn't want in public, and all that got made public because they didn't follow it correctly. Mandated attorney's fees for successful litigation, and so if someone were to claim that we didn't follow open meetings laws and they won, we have to pay their attorney's fees, but there's no reverse on that. There's no, if it was, you know, we did follow everything right, unless it was completely frivolous, which is never happens. You know, we don't get our attorney's fees. Lions Ethics Code considerations, if you were the one that, you know, had this problem, we could do an ethics hearing for that action. And then probably the biggest one is loss of confidence from the public. If it comes out like in Aurora, where we were doing all sorts of stuff we shouldn't have done in executive session, that, you know, creates a real confidence problem. And that's why you get things like Littleton where they ban executive sessions, right?
Brendan, one thing I'm unclear on
Yep.
is, I do recall a couple of executive sessions where when they were ended, notes were collected.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I don't know, and I don't remember whether that was on handout material or whether
It
it was
is.
just me scribbling here, I had to
It
take
is.
a page and give it to you.
yeah,
Because everything discussed in executive session must stay within the people that were there. And if you share anything that was discussed in there or, there's no decisions, but discussed, you are subject to a violation. And so what we do, like we'll hand out sample maps or contracts or whatever we're talking
Yeah.
about, and then collect them at the end, so those don't go public.
It's not even to your spouse or best friend.
Nobody, yeah.
Of all people, she rest in peace, Laverne started.
She had a violation once.
she had a violation, yeah.
She had a violation once, actually, I came out and started talking about to somebody.
Yeah.
In a meeting, I think it was during the meeting, she started bringing on, we were all like, no.
Yeah.
And she had an ethics violation for that. But, that's why sometimes we hand out things and we collect them, because they're still just a work product, they're not a final document.
Draft documents, yeah, especially
that
like
was
settlement
big.
agreements, contracts, employees, that sort of stuff. So we're gonna get quasi judicial here in a second. To understand quasi judicial, you need to understand the different actions the board can take. And really kind of, if you think about, you know, the federal government and your civics class, you know, the various branches of government, right? Executive, legislative, judicial at the federal level, right? The board has all the same kind of functions, a little bit different, but you know, at the macro scale, very similar types of functions except you serve as all three. rather than, you know, being separated into separate but equal branches of power. You do all three. And so most of what you do day to day is legislative actions. That's your creation of policy, enforcing policy, you know, making ordinances that are the law of the town. That's what the board mostly does. You know, or its most important role is doing that. Rate making is also considered a legislative act. You know, so if the board approves a rate increase, that's considered legislative. There's also some important reasons for that, but we don't need to get into those today. Executives, again, is enforcing and implementing the policies. And so, the ones that are most important are direction of staff. So telling, you know, Victoria or myself or someone else to, you know, to do certain things. Approving contracts or amending contracts, which enact the policies of the town. And then, you know, signing things, you know, the mayor. There are some executive functions shared with the town administrator, so the management of employees is the biggest one. But you know, that's your executive function. And then the last one, which is the one that's most important from the legal perspective, is quasi judicial. Which is when the board acts as a quasi court, basically, for certain things. The biggest one is adjudicating the rights and obligations of property owners. The things like rezoning hearings or conditional use process. Annexation.
Land use
In-
rights. mostly.
Anything that affects someone's private property rights.
Yep.
And we're gonna get into why that is in a little bit.
Just mentioning passing legislative and executive,
Mhm.
anything that falls in the legislative category, the citizens in Colorado have pretty easy to use, referendum and initiative rights. So that what you do in the legislative category, if the citizens don't like it, they can reverse you.
They can reverse.
What's
it.
done in the executive category, just ministerial stuff, the citizens don't have.
They have no say.
And so there's all kinds of litigation about what's legislative and what's executive, but when you know you're acting in the legislative area, you gotta remember the citizens, because if they don't like this, they can always change what we do.
Good point.
Just kind of following up on that, you know, ordinances, resolutions, they're the two, you know, documents we most commonly do at the board of trustees level. The important thing to remember there, the ordinances are what do the legislative changes, and then things that are kind of long term. And so under state law, multi-year leases, selling property, things that are permanent, those are all.
That says permanent.
Oh.
Spelling was never my strong suit.
He's glad he asked me.
What's funny though is that we've had the same like slide for like probably 8 years now. They know what
Except for Chandra, no?
Yeah. In Lyons, ordinances require 2 readings in a public hearing. Statutory towns are allowed to do one reading.
They are.
And so Estes Park does 1 reading.
On ordinances.
Yeah.
And a public hearing.
All at once.
Lyons has chosen to do 2 to give the public more time.
Yeah, I mean, because you can do.
I'm kidding you, when people tell you that's not how they do it here, okay, that's fine,
Yeah.
that's how we do it here.
Yeah, so I think most
Different.
places do 2 readings for that reason, because if you have one, you can just do stuff and no one knows about it, right? And so that's why you do that. Resolutions, you know, contracts, the biggest thing we do via resolution, and other kind of temporary changes. 1 reading, no public hearing, so that, you know, because they're less permanent, they're temporary things, we have less public process.
Oh, ordinance, will you go back one?
Yeah, of course.
Ordinances also after that, 2 readings and a public hearing.
Yeah.
It doesn't, then has to be published for
30 days.
30 days. It does not go into effect for 30 days, and sometimes that's mine and the clerk's job to remember
Yep.
that. So like when we pass a new ordinance, we have to be sure that like we don't sign that agreement or whatever for 30 days after it's published. We don't have a daily paper to publish. So we are at the whim of how soon Longmont Times Call can publish it. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 days later, so it changes for everything we do. And the clerk is responsible to be tracking that and say, it's in effect. So
Do an emergency.
You do emergency
You do
ordinances,
emergency
very
ordinance.
special circumstances, and there's
24 hours.
something called pending ordinance doctrine, which is like kind of a hope and a prayer that you don't get challenged, but
Yeah,
you know, those are the only really 2 exceptions, you know, to that rule. It's a big problem in really small towns in the plains where they don't have papers. Or they have like 1 paper which is published very infrequently, or people just forget to publish the paper. It happens. It's a huge problem for that. And so there have been many attempts to try to change this and then the lobbies for the newspapers usually beat it down.
Yeah.
Because they know if they get rid of legal notices, those papers don't exist anymore.
We
So-
used to, until recently, a couple of years ago, we had to print the ordinance in full.
Yep.
And so like that general offenses ordinance we did that was 17 pages.
More than that.
We were paying the newspapers a ton of money. They loved it. And so we changed our ordinance to say we only have to publish by title. And we'll put the whole thing on our bulletin board and on our website.
We have to do a vote to do that.
Yeah.
And so the smaller communities, can't get together the money to have a vote, or they just can't organize it, and so they're stuck publishing everything in full in their local newspaper.
Yeah, so hopefully if you get to go to a conference, it's a hoot because everybody's different, but the little places are just like,
They have the most burden on them.
they do,
Yeah.
and we're kind of on the cusp. We're in between what's considered really small and
Yeah, we're kind of like almost medium.
even the
Yeah,
population, we're small,
yeah.
but
We operate more from.
we operate like a, yeah.
Medium size.
So it is kind of interesting, but yeah, I could see that happening. We don't have enough money to publish it. What are we gonna do?
For those of you who've been on other boards and commissions, you know what the process is for having this. There's a very laid out process we have to go through for resolutions and for ordinances. And if it's a quasi-judicial, it's even more restrictive in how this process works. We follow Bob's rules, which are kind of a modified version of Robert's rules.
Although,
Isn't that fun? Bob's real.
yes, but our policy says Roberts, it doesn't say Bob's.
Yeah.
And there's a few differences between them, so we have.
There's differences, yeah.
Yeah.
We're just saying on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis, we use Bob's.
If there were to be a true parliamentarian dispute, we pull out Robert's rules.
Right,
But Bob's rules for the most part is a summary of
mostly they're.
99.9% of it is a summary.
And I'd say 98% of the state uses Bob's.
Yeah, every municipality pretty much uses Bob's
Yeah.
because Roberts is arcane. And so it's easier to have the Cliff Note version than it is to read the full thing, right? So.
And this is kind of a fun story. Bob's rules were written by a attorney, a CML attorney named Robert Widener. He was our town attorney until he got big
Yeah,
and became the state's CML attorney. He was like CML's attorney. So when he did it, it became Bob's and it happened to be both were Robert's. So it kind of was cool.
he has a really famous presentation he gave where it's like Robert's rules are too hard for him to understand. We need to distill it down.
And he loves lions, so I can call Bob anytime and go, Bob, interpret this.
He's the city attorney for Centennial.
Yeah.
That's what he currently does.
He was,
So,
he's been since they found it.
Yep.
Yeah, he
Yep.
founded Centennial with him.
Let me ask a question. I've never been clear on this.
Yeah.
So the act of tabling
Yes.
a, motion,
Mhm.
does that require a
Second.
majority, or is it just at the request of the person?
It requires a vote to table to a date certain.
Okay,
Yeah, we're not allowed, like, the Congress can just like indefinitely table something.
yes,
And we must do it to a date certain, so the public knows when it will come back.
okay.
We're not allowed to let things just like die
Yeah.
indefinitely.
And this is one of those areas like for your first few meetings, I don't want any of you to, feel like you might be embarrassed if you make a motion or second or anything
Yeah.
like that. We do have a cheat sheet that we can put in your drawer that it's just one page that says when you need a second, when you need it 2/3, when,
Yep.
so you can reference that
The important thing is there needs to be a motion and a second before,
discussion.
discussion, and when you have the discussion and then you have a vote. Right? And if you wanna amend the motion that's on the floor, then you need another first and second and vote to do that. That's the important thing, and we'll get more into detail that when we have stuff.
One thing on there, that it's on my list of errors in the town code we need to fix or things that have changed. Town attorneys to parliamentarian, that's the way it should be. Our code actually says the town clerk is the parliamentarian.
That's, incorrect.
I've got people saying, it's so fix it.
And being a parliamentarian, just means you're the referee, right? There's a dispute over what something means, it's my say. at the
Or
end
we
of the
need
day.
guidance, we look to you and say, does that need a second? Does that,
Yeah.
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 He's
But
the
it's-
one who always says, we need a second before we can discuss it.
It's a collaborative process, right? I mean, it's very collaborative. Okay, so now quasi judicial, this is like the big thing that I think we all wanna talk about here.
So nobody gets in
So
trouble.
nobody gets in trouble. This is the one area where people can really easily get themselves in trouble. Again, quasi judicial are narrow application of facts, to a specific person usually. And so we already talked about it, land use approvals generally, variances, license hearing, nuisance abatements, things that impacts one person's liberty rights, whether that be property or personal liberty. Those things require due process, and due process is fairness. So you're acting like a court. A court must be fair in how they apply the law to each individual. So should we also do that. And that contrasts with, again, the legislative, actions, which is like the General Assembly of the Congress passing laws, right? And so think of it, does this apply to the whole town? It's legislative. Does it apply to one person or a very narrow set of people? Quasi judicial. And when it's quasi judicial, all sorts of new rules apply on how we act. And again, the important thing, it's a lot of text, we don't have a lot of time, I can't go through it all. The important thing here is
I
that.
can share these slides.
Yeah, we can show those slides. The important thing here is that when you have someone's liberty rights at stake, there's fairness considerations. That's under the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution. And everybody that's interested in the case, has those rights. And so it's not just the person that's applying for the rezoning, it's also all their neighbors. It's also to a certain extent, everyone else in town that wants to come talk about this thing. They all have, a fairness consideration and their rights to be involved in this. And the key is impartiality. When a court looks at these decisions, whether they're done correctly or not, they're trying to see was there anything that was done that made the body, loses impartiality as to the decision. And there are many different ways you can do that, but the ones that always come up are ex parte communications, prejudgment or bias, and conflicts of interest. The one that people are least familiar with is ex parte communications. Ex parte is Latin for outside. And what it means is when things happen outside of the hearing. And so when we are sitting as a quasi judicial court, basically, right, and we're hearing someone's case, everything we know about this case should be in the materials that were provided and what we heard in terms of testimony and evidence that were presented.
By the applicant
And staff and anyone who gives public testimony during the hearing. And so the public should know what was the body of evidence that was used to make the decision is the idea. Things that are outside of that hearing, are considered ex parte and are not allowed to be considered. And so the example of this that's most common is the person on the street. Hey, 224 sewer is getting rezoned. Here are my opinions on that. You can't consider that. You're not supposed to hear that because it's outside of the hearing, right? The public doesn't know about
don't know the
what
rules, yeah.
that conversation was. The applicant doesn't know what that conversation was if it wasn't the applicant that said that, right? Or the reverse, if the owner of the property wants to talk to you, the public doesn't know, and there are people who are opposed to the project don't know what was said. Everything must be public. And so it's very important not to engage in those conversations. And there's ways to fix it too, but the first step is don't do it. And so if someone comes up to you and says, I want to talk about this thing that's coming before the board, and it's clearly a quasi judicial matter, you say, I can't consider this.
I'm really sorry, I can't. You need to come so the whole board hears it, not just me.
Yep.
It can be difficult in a small
It is
town.
very-
Very difficult.
We had Riverbend with something pending before us for what, 4 or 5 months?
Forever.
Chris and Sarah Lee lived 2 houses down. I mean, we didn't go to things at each other's houses for 3 or 4 months just because we didn't want to.
You knew it would go there, yeah.
Kind of difficult, so.
It is.
Yeah.
You can suggest that people send a note.
Yeah,
And then
to the
share
clerk,
that.
yeah, send to the clerk. And that way I can consider it along with everything else as part of, the evidence that was submitted to the quasi judicial body.
So say that again, would you?
You can say, can you just send me an email? And then when that email comes in, share it with.
The
your
clerk, and
branch
she'll
to share
distribute it
with
to everyone.
It needs to go through the clerk. too.
I would
Because
rather
you
go
guys can
directly to
share it
the
with
clerk.
each other. Everything needs to either go the clerk, the attorney, or me, and we
Yeah.
will get it to the rest of you.
Oh, that's an easy.
That's the
Yeah,
easy way,
easy-
just.
easy way out.
Please file.
Send an email to the clerk, yeah.
Mhm.
And that email is available on the website, very easily found. In fact, we have a whole quasi judicial primer for the public on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. We try,
It's the
right?
tough one, the tough one.
Yeah, the other ones are less common, but you know, and then they're also more straightforward. Prejudgment or bias. You know, and this is a very high bar for this type of stuff. Where someone said, I will never approve another multifamily housing project in the history of my life. You know, something like that.
Disqualified yourself.
That may be a problem,
Yeah.
right? Or you say on the record, you know, the record or some public setting that, and this is like the only case that ever got overturned on this basis, like, I hate this particular applicant and they're the worst people ever, they belong in jail, basically. And I will never consider, you know, very explicitly what, you know, they're proposing to do. That's a problem, right? You can't do that. So.
It's okay if they say they hate you.
Yeah, that's, we'll take a lot of that.
You're supposed to be impartial.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be a judge. You're not supposed to, you know, think of these people that way. You're supposed to, you know, have an open mind to the evidence coming in. The last one is the most obvious one, but also the most important one for you in terms of your personal liability potentially. And that's a conflict of interest, in particular a financial benefit. If you have some financial interest in the decision before the board, that's a very clear line that you cannot be a part of that proceeding. That is the only time that I will tell you, you cannot participate in this. And the reason is because things like bias or prejudgment or ex parte communications, you can, it's up to you to determine whether or not that has biased you in some way that you can't participate. But a conflict of interest for financial reasons, you put yourself in jeopardy of getting very serious consequences in terms of criminal liability. And so the law is very clear, you can't do that. If you do, you know, didn't tell anybody and it's found out later, you could go to jail for corruption. And so that's the one that's very clear. If you can stand to benefit financially in some very direct way, you could not participate.
So are these situations where you
Disclose it.
recuse yourself
Yep,
or?
so we're gonna talk about how you fix all this stuff, right? And that's the very next slide. Sorry. We already did the same one, we already talked about that.
Suggestions.
So how do you fix these problems, right? And that's what we're gonna talk about. And these conflicts exist very naturally in small towns, right? Where things you just kind of walk into them. Someone's your neighbor, right? And is that a conflict of interest? Well, it may look like one, right? But how you fix it is you know, first you ask yourself, can I fairly, impartially, you know, consider this despite the fact I have this, you know, appearance of conflict or, you know, what maybe perceives a conflict. You have to answer that question that, you know, no, I can't. I can consider this rationally neutral, you know, fairly for everyone involved, despite the fact that there is an appearance of conflict.
So then
And-
when you get to that hearing, up here, you would disclose that.
Yep.
I ran into someone, they brought this up, but I still feel I can be impartial in this decision.
Yep.
But you have to disclose it,
Yeah.
but you get to decide.
Yeah, you get it. I can't tell. I can advise you on what
Yeah.
the considerations are.
Call
but-
the attorney and say, here's the situation.
But I can't tell you on when it's fairness or impartiality, those sorts of things. I cannot direct you.
Up to you.
It's- Yeah, and if you've made that decision and it was a, you know, and the evidence supports that there wasn't some other problem, you know, disclosure will cure 99% of the problems most of the
Yeah,
time.
almost everyone's had to
Yeah.
disclose something.
Ex parte, same thing. If you disclose it and, you know, affirm for the record that you're not gonna consider that thing that you shouldn't have heard, 99.9% of the time, that's enough, you know, unless there's other stuff going on. Now, if you have something that can't be cured, financial, for example, or you say, I really can't consider this impartially. I can't be impartial on this issue. I must, you know, recuse myself. That doesn't just mean you just sit here and don't listen to it. You must leave the room. You can take no part in the item. So, that's an important one, something that's been fought over in the past. You must leave.
And we have those regularly, because we
yeah,
are a small
sure.
town.
Yep,
People just leave, go sit out in the other room.
yeah,
Just remember to take your phone. We had to sit out there one night for how long?
Yeah.
Was that you, Greg? You had to sit out there one night and he hadn't picked up his phone and he had nothing to do out there for like
Yeah.
2 hours. I discussed it with him. Hey, your phone.
Yeah, so these things happen, it's not a big
Yes,
deal,
they're not a
so,
big deal.
so long as it's, not financial or you're trying to hide it, it's, it's fine, these things happen and we follow the procedures we're supposed to.
It's better to
To-
disclose or recuse than have
Yeah.
that perception.
When in doubt, you're unsure, that's one of the things you call me
Yeah.
for, right? And we can talk about it and we can walk through the considerations and to what extent, you must protect yourself from liability or, I can tell you, here's what you need to think about, right? There's other types of conflicts of interest which exist outside of quasi-judicial. You can't get a personal benefit because you're a trustee, right? Pretty straightforward. You get a ticket in town, you can't say, well, I'm a trustee, you can't ticket me. That's a big problem. You can't do that. You also can't use staff resources for your personal benefit as a trustee. And so the classic example of this is a trustee saying, I would like my driveway plowed, please, by city trucks. You can't do that. That's corruption. And so just don't use your office for some sort of special advantage, right? That kind of leads into ethics. And so we have an adopted ethics code in Lions.
It's in their packet.
It's in your
All of
packet.
these
Yeah.
are in your packet.
There's also, the State Ethics Commission, we try not to put that out loud, that it exists, because people don't know it exists. Not only can you be punished at the local level, you can also be punished at the state level. If something were to happen, and this happens by someone filing a complaint against you, saying that you acted in an unethical way according to our own ethics policies, as well as the ones at the state level. And you have to personally defend yourself basically at the state against these ethics issues.
I've only had that once since I've been here.
Yeah, I haven't seen it online, because I can't remember.
I did once in
Yeah.
16 years
Yeah.
that someone took it to the state level.
Yeah, the city of Glendale has had major problems with this, where people use a bludgeon against each other on the city council, and these are constantly defending themselves at the state. But that's, the highest kind of consequences out there, and there are criminal penalties associated with that, so you could, if you were found to violate certain things, you personally held liable, you go to jail, in addition to monetary penalties. Ethics is this whole presentation for an hour on itself, but some of the big ones are confidentiality. We've already kind of talked about that. If I give you confidential attorney-client privilege information, or you heard some executive session, you cannot share that to anyone, outside of the people that were,
In the room.
involved. Yeah. Accepting gifts, you can't accept, the contractor's coming into town and he wants a big contract for the town. He can't, he can't take you out to dinner or, give you a check or cash under the table. That number changes all the time.
State sets it.
State sets it, it's $59, the latest one I've seen. But we just don't, just don't, just
They
don't.
increase it by like a percentage,
Just
like
no.
by the interest.
Yeah, it changes from time to time, yeah. You can't use information, it's kind of insider trading, you can't use information because you're a trustee for your own personal benefit. The town's about ready to announce some, I don't know, something,
Purchase of a piece of something,
yeah,
and you know that, so now you are gonna go buy it for a little bit more.
yeah, or you're gonna purchase the property next door, so the value's gonna increase or something like that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
The other ones we already kind of talked about, nepotism isn't a huge issue here, I don't think, but you can't you can't benefit your family because of, your position as a trustee. Open record laws,
What's up there? Any questions?
Yeah.
Go for it. That was a long one.
that's a long,
Okay, all of those policies, ethics, well, legislative's in there too, but they're here and I'm happy to share this if it's helpful,
Yeah.
the PowerPoint.
What recourse do people have to appeal our quasi judicial findings?
so there's a part of the Colorado Rules of Civil Procedures called 106. Where they can say, to a district court within so many days of the decision happening, basically appeal that to the district court, so they did it wrong. And here are all the problems with what they did.
And then the other thing about quasi judicial is, Lisa Ritchie, our planner, has started on the community development webpage. It says quasi judicial issues in action, kind of. And so both you guys and the public know. So when you say, I'm really sorry, I know that's hard to understand, but I just cannot discuss this with you. they can also go see what's out there that they shouldn't be. So right now, I think there's 3 issues out there.
I mean, that was because people would file an application with staff and be under review, but the board wouldn't know.
Yeah, you guys, we have to review all that before you guys ever get it to prep for that big hearing. So we know about things like that.
There's some gray area in that you know things are coming, but they haven't actually been filed yet.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
It is. There's a
Yeah.
technicality.
Yeah, basically, when the application has been submitted, is definitely QJ protections kick in. Now, if everyone in town knows that Paul Tamburello is about to come in for rezoning to build a water park, you know,
That's not true.
yeah, it's not true. Yeah. But it's like an open secret, right? You know, and the law says, well, you knew that was coming. You can't go around and make all your decisions prior to the application being submitted to get around the law, basically. That's a gray area when that actually kicks in before, but if it's been submitted to the town, and it's a complete application, no question QJ kicks in and we can't, violate any of the restrictions.
We have about 3 more areas to go through.
Okay, I'll try to be quick.
No, you're being fast. And we will come back to all these.
All these, this is very surface level.
When we have your first quasi judicial, he'll review this with you again, just that section.
Open records, assume anything you do that concerns public business is a public record subject to disclosure. And so especially if you use your town emails for something, we get cored all the time, which is when it's a request for documents for emails. And they're looking for something, right? And, if you say something in those emails, it will get disclosed probably invariably and,
Do
so,
not put anything in writing.
You wouldn't
do not want to say headline the next day.
right? And so just think about that. Even if you use your personal stuff to talk about public business, it can be cored.
Your
Which is
personal.
a whole nother ball of wax, which you don't want to get involved in. And so you should use your public email to discuss public business. Don't use your Yahoo Gmail account to do it.
That's a difficult area, especially if all these came out of campaigns.
Yeah.
But you're also not supposed to use your office email for political stuff. So
Yeah.
when they're mixed, it's tough. I've tried to separate things out in recent months.
You will all
Please
be-
do this on
You
my.
will all be given,
People, why are you getting so technical?
townoflions.com.
Because somebody can core your personal
Use
email.
it.
Yeah, and the way that works is that, the Denver Post will core you, they will serve you and say, here's a core request for your cell phone. And you will be responsible for defending yourself, because it's your personal device, basically. And so don't do that.
Use your town of line account, all the time if you can.
Again, there are exceptions to core, but they are very narrow. Don't expect those exceptions to apply. Attorney-client privilege is the most sure one. The rest of these are debatable for the most part. And so again, just expect whatever you write to be publicly disclosed.
And just, that Cora won't come to you. Cora will
Unless
come-
you do the bad things.
Well, yeah, but Cora requests they're a form and they will go to the town clerk. The town clerk immediately contacts the town attorney to say, I've received this. There's very specific timelines we have to respond by. Oftentimes when people want a really general Cora, like they want all emails of all staff regarding this, then I have to I have to hire our IT people to do a full scrub.
Or I
of the-
convince them to narrow it down.
Of the full scrub of the system. The clerk has, 3 days to get all that together and respond. Well, before then, it has to go to the attorney to take out anything that's client attorney privileged or quasi judicial. So then it's like, it is expensive and it's timely. We probably get a Cora, what'd you say, once a month?
Yeah, once every
Twice
2
a month,
months.
yeah.
It depends. It kind of comes in waves.
It's about how often they come. Sometimes they come from really random companies.
Yeah.
We'll be like, anybody know what this is about? And it's someone who bid a project 5 years ago and now they want to know why, they're like bought out by another company. Coras are, they are what they are. But we have to stop everything we are working on when we get a Cora. All your packets, everything goes to a total halt.
Once a month is fine.
I mean, some months we don't.
Some are
But some
easy.
month we may get 4, or back to back to back. And again, they can be very hard to do within.
Some are very
emails.
difficult to answer and some are very specific and easy,
Yeah,
you know? But most of the time, people, if it's an easy, they're just gonna call you. Can you tell me what date this happened? You know, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you know they're digging for
Something.
something or it's a legal issue, they Cora it. And it puts the town clerk, the attorney and me
Like, for-
on total hold.
I've got a question without an answer from the people on the board. Do you wanna know when cores are filed? Do you wanna see all of them?
It's public record.
Should we have the staff tell us when we get a core
That's a good
request?
thing to think
We
about.
haven't done that.
Yeah, I think so.
I kind of think, particularly if it comes from somebody local, I think I'd like
And they're
to know that.
they're sometimes personal. I mean, they sometimes want a
Right.
specific trustee. I mean,
Yeah,
you need. They're very random, very,
yeah. Like a bigger one we got recently was some stuff relating to CIMEX. And so they want every
they're
record
suing
ever
Cimex.
related to CIMEX. And of course, that goes back, 50 years in the town.
They wanted every minute, every email, every
It was like
phone
a
conversation.
terabyte of emails. Yeah.
And it is like, oh my,
And-
I think we spent how many hours on that? Like 22 hours of staff time on that one
And
core.
it was
They
a big,
were willing to pay for it?
yeah,
Yeah, they.
it was Hall and Heart.
Lawsuit with
Yeah.
Cimex. So.
Big law firm was like, well, we want it all. We'll pay for it. Yeah,
And you get charged for those.
Yeah.
If it takes more than
in an hour.
1 hour.
Is
they get
AI
charged.
starting to help the situation?
I gotta put eyes on it. If we wanna, it may help to narrow things down potentially, but if I wanna say attorney-client privilege, I gotta put eyes on it.
He's gotta read every email.
In bigger cities, they have departments that handle this. Usually a clerk's office will have its own, they have a person that's the core person basically, and they'll narrow it down and say, here's all the things I think that are, should be redacted or
Yeah.
it should be not disclosed. And that's very helpful. As you're looking through like, a handful of documents rather than all the documents. But we still have that,
Forgot about that one.
we still have staff and lines to do that, so.
Yeah.
Are the records digital or are they,
It could be anything,
paper?
anything that the town has.
Depends what they asked for.
We're not required to create anything. And so if we don't have to create it. But if it's something we possess, we must produce it.
Yeah.
Subject to the exceptions. And even then, most things we have to redact. We're not even that,
So then we gotta go through them, yeah, if it contains any personal identifying information, gotta
Yeah.
take that out. Yeah, it's a big deal when cores come in, so, just for all of you, just know you can just ask. It's all public information, we're happy to do it, you don't have to, but it does, when we get those, you might think about that, that's a pretty good thing for you to know,
Yeah.
is when we get those, because the first thing Dolores does is calls Brandon,
Yeah.
set aside some
We
time.
set up calendars and start working off of that. I don't know if I can probably go all the way into social media, but just know
The
that
policies in here.
there's a social media policy. We may have a separate talk on this. And the law is evolving in this area. But the important thing to know is that social media can have all sorts of different constitutional issues attached to it. Traditionally, First Amendment issues have been the big one. There are facts under which your personal accounts can become public accounts, which means that you can't block people. You can't delete posts. Everything's subject to open records. The best thing you can do is one, separate everything out. And then two, a disclaimer saying, this is my personal account. This is not me speaking out as a trustee, that sort of thing.
And when you do that on social media, you'll get people joking or making snide comments about like this, not my opinion and not that of the town lines, but it's important to do that.
Yeah, there was a Supreme Court case 2 years ago on this, and they said the disclaimer creates a heavy presumption, not absolute, but a heavy presumption that it's not a government account. But there is a world in which your personal account can become a public account, and then all sorts of things attached to that, so. That's why we try to use actual town accounts to do a lot of things, and so
That's
that you don't have
something
to
we're
risk it.
probably gonna talk about is how do we respond when we know we have a couple really active pages in town? But we, by law, the recommendation is not to get into all that and to just keep it all under government page, the facts. And so it makes the town look like we're not very responsive or we're not participating. And this last term, Mark's been the one who's been able to say, I'll kind of field that for us. But
You know, listen,
it is
it's
it's
in our
hard. It's really
legislative
hard.
policy about Brandon's got a recommended disclaimer. I
Yeah.
copy it verbatim before I keep it on my computer.
Yeah, I think it's in the social media policy, yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah, a recommended disclaimer, and that came, from the case law
Yeah.
that said, this is what you can do to protect yourself.
So I think, it was Mayor Rogan who said she would recommend for all of you, if you are active, create a Facebook or whatever venue you're on separate. Keep your personal one and start one that's, trustee Julie Jacobs, and then all of your stuff on that one.
Public business, if it's
Public.
not public business, then you don't need to do that.
But she found, after learning, I think the hard way once, maybe.
Yeah.
She said that to me the other day. She said, if I could give you guys advice, I'd say set up separate everything. Cause you do it gets personalized so quickly.
And again, this is very active. There was this very recently, I think it was the town of Kersey got sued over this, who were blocking people and lost. That was the government page that was blocking people. But this is a very, very active area right now.
Yeah, we don't block anything. We don't block
Yeah.
anything. We shut off comments on ours, so it's only
Yeah.
one direction facts.
We can limit the scope of the forum, is what we can do, and so.
That's all we can do on our page.
Yeah. We're already talking about what policies we got. You want me to touch on governmental immunity real quick?
Yeah, you better.
Yeah, so the important thing here is that, governmental entities in Colorado and really across the United States have governmental immunity. Which sounds weird, kind of the uninitiated person, like, why would we do this? And what it does is it allows the government to function without being under the constant threat of lawsuits. Right, and so, someone is plowing the street, right, and they don't like the way they plow the street, you could sue over that if you really wanted to. This allows us to function without, being under the constant threat of lawsuits. It's a very high bar to get over governmental immunity. It also protects the taxpayer from shouldering the burden of, endless
Somebody
lawsuits, right, or giant lawsuits, right? Because eventually if we lose a lawsuit, it's the taxpayers that are paying out the money, right? And so that's why it exists. It's important because knowing about this is it does very much govern your conduct as public officials. Because we are required to indemnify all of you, in your capacities as trustees. If you are acting with your official capacities as a trustee and you haven't, done something that falls outside the course and scope of your duties. And so if, this happens all the time, you see it where, we pass an ordinance, someone doesn't like it for whatever reason, they sue over it. They will not only name the town as a party, they will name all the trustees as a party. So you are now all party to a lawsuit. And so long as you did that as a trustee,
You have government.
you have governmental immunity. The town has to indemnify you. CIRSA, our insurance carrier, will defend you.
We carry insurance for
Yeah.
all of you.
And so it's very important to make sure you're always acting within your capacity as a trustee. When does that become a problem? When you go out and become the personal enforcer of whatever, become the code enforcement person, you are no longer acting in your capacity as a trustee. You're acting kind of on your own. And what will eventually happen is that, our insurance may decide that we're not going to defend you, that you're on your own.
Because you're outside.
Because you're outside the scope of your
lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that, people that, did willful and wanton things, right? Started a fire, were drunk driving as a public employee, that sort of stuff. CIRSA says we're not gonna cover you. We'll cover the town, because they'll always sue the town, right? As we're resources, we're a bucket of money.
They think.
They think, yeah.
Our pockets aren't really that deep.
Yeah. So, plaintiff's attorney,
Yeah.
we are sure we have some money, right, where the individual may have no money. So they'll always sue us, and CIRSA will make the call that you were outside of your scope, or we're doing a reservation of rights. Which means that the court determines that you were outside the scope of your employment, you have to pay us back for all the money we spent defending you. So that's why it's important, and the other thing to take away from this is someone does serve you for something that you did as a trustee, you need to let me and Victoria know immediately. Because we have to, if there's a lawsuit filed and we don't know within 15 days, we no longer have a duty to indemnify you. And so you usually, well in advance before these things get to that stage, but please let us know, when this stuff happens. It does happen from time to time. The other important thing we talked about taxpayer protection, there's damages limitations under, so even if the court finds that governmental immunity, there was an exception that fell within, the big one for us is wildfire.
Yeah.
Say a distribution pole fell over and started a wildfire, and there's all sorts of damages. Our damages are capped at $1.5 million, a little under that.
Which isn't very much.
Yeah, so
Not,
versus Excel paying out like $500 million for the Marshall Fire, right? So again, it serves an important purpose of not making the taxpayer have to shoulder that burden. The last slide I had was a town attorney, just kind of knowing, what my role is, what I can and can't do. And so the most important thing that may not be obvious is who does the town attorney represent? I don't represent the board. I don't represent the individuals on the board. I don't represent staff. I represent the community as a whole. Which means that at times, rarely I have to disagree with staff or with the board or an individual, because I am required by law to represent the interests of the community as a whole and not any one individual. What can I advise you on? Or we'll start with who can I advise you on? I can advise the board, individual elected officials, staff, boards, and commissions. The important thing is I cannot advise the public. And so all the time I get directed stuff or, not so much with wine, but more other places where a trustee or a city council person, here's the town attorney's email contact, ask him. And I'm not allowed to do that, right? And so I cannot advise the public. I can only advise the town. The public is not my client.
yeah, we do not
is.
give the town attorney's contact to the general public because they will contact him and then we get charged, right? All contacts with the attorney go through me or the mayor or you guys, you'll figure it out how it goes.
I have some stuff on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Oh, you have one more?
Yep, I saw stuff on this,
Okay.
yep. The other thing, what can I provide? I can provide legal advice. I can advise you on the law. I can give you suggestions on policy. If you're thinking about something, I can hear the policy I'd like to enact. What do you feel about that? I can give you suggestions. But at the end of the day, is the town / the board is the decision maker, right? I can't tell you must do X. I can strongly advise you should do X for the following reasons. But you are the decision maker at the end of the day. I can't make the decision to do anything. I can't settle a lawsuit. The board must do that, right? This is the part you were getting to, how to seek advice from the town attorney.
Yeah.
If it's during a meeting, you just ask freely, right? Like, what do you think about this? Or am I doing this correctly? I'm there as a resource to help you run your meeting and answer questions. There may be certain times where I say, I can't answer that question. And usually the reason for that is that whatever's being requested of me would put legal liability on the town or disclose things we don't want in the public that are better discussed in executive session. As I may tell you very rarely that I can't answer that now, we should schedule an executive session or another meeting or something to take care of that. If you have more general questions about things, as Victoria just said, email town administrator and the mayor.
First, here's the reason why.
Yeah.
You are not the first group of trustees to come through the town. And no, I mean, staff already know the answers and the mayors to a lot of things. So we don't need to be being charged an attorney's rate when you could just say, whatever the question might be, very simple. If it's something I don't know the answer to, I'm not comfortable with, I will either say, why don't you call Brandon yourself? Or I have an email going to him or a meeting with him, I'll ask him and get back to you.
Brandon,
But we just
what's
do
your
that,
hourly
we try-
rate? Just so they'll.
$230.
So
He's low,
An hour,
we are
which
his
is low.
lowest and he's nice to us.
I will say one thing though, because it's happened in the past, time to, if something happens, hope it doesn't, but you think I've done something wrong,
Yeah.
you do not have to contact me, you
No.
contact him. You should go directly.
Absolutely,
And that was my exact next
I wouldn't want you
thing,
to.
yeah.
absolutely,
And if it's an ethical issue, you can come directly to me.
yes,
And particularly if it's an issue involving Victoria or the mayor.
yes,
It you come to me on those.
Or if it's a personal issue.
Yeah, or personal.
And you don't feel comfortable talking to your neighbor or
Yes.
you can, not personal as in legal personal,
Yeah.
but like
Please don't do that, yeah.
like I'm gonna be. I have a serious illness and I'm gonna miss 16 meetings and I'm not ready to tell board yet. You call Brandon and he'll tell you what to do. You know, just stuff like that. So it's not that you don't have access to him, it's just I have daily access almost.
Yeah.
And so we already know, Dolores and I, a lot of the
Talk
answers
once a
that,
day, pretty much.
that get asked by every board.
Yeah, the big one that people contact me directly for, and I encourage you to do that, is if those quasi judicial issues come up and you think you have a conflict, you know, come directly to me and we can talk about it.
I have stock invested here.
I mean, if you wanted to, you could, you know, you felt comfortable, you could, you know, copy Victoria or,
Sure. Yeah.
but you are more than permitted to, if you contact me directly on those. And that's all I had.
I can
Yeah.
tell you that,
Yeah.
you know, between the clerk and myself and the attorney, we hold a lot of confidential information. And we're very good at that. And
Yeah.
we are the only ones that have, you know, there's a very few of us that know individual sales tax information. We aren't able to share any, just, you know, this individual utility information. And so there's lots of, you know,
Health information.
income, health.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, we are all very discreet in that, and we have each other if we need to bounce
Yeah.
something like that off, but yeah, we're all very discreet.
And the other thing with the ethical one, back on that, I mean, the conversations you have with me are confidential, that we have attorney-client privileged. You don't want it disclosed to Victoria
Yeah.
or the mayor or anyone else what your situation is.
It's fine.
That is, I am required by law not to disclose that information unless you are an imminent threat to someone. Which is never
Danger
happened.
to yourself
Or others.
or others.
Why are you looking at me when you?
I was trying to find.
We dropped our
Anybody
flag
have to do that? Let's get a couple of
All right, we're not quite done. I'm gonna give you a couple more things and then we'll get you out of here. So this was a lot. So when we say you're gonna drink from a hose, we're gonna do this 6 times. And it's gonna be a lot. And so do not hesitate, send emails, ask for clarification, call us. No, there are no silly questions. It's good to know, and nothing's off limits, just call us. Mayor-elect and I had met and talked about a few things, and he wanted to know kind of what to expect on the 20th. So on the 20th, at 6 o'clock, these will all be posted. We will have a reception outside from 6 to 6:50. So that bring your families, bring your kids, bring whomever that want to see you get sworn in. That's all really cool. We also will be saying farewell to 4 trustees. So we take that opportunity for that reception to thank them, and you guys welcome. So we'll have that 6 to 6:50. 7 o'clock, the outgoing board gets seated. You guys stay out here, okay? They get seated. They have a few items to wrap up. All right, mostly consent. They will do that. They'll make their trustee comments, whatever they want to say, kind of thing. So I did put the agenda in your packet as of right now. It is very minimal. But the incoming board, you will come up when the outgoing board, they'll adjourn.
Sign
die.
Which means that they're not gonna return without saying,
Forever.
yeah,
The last bell has rang.
yeah.
So they will leave.
Not the lots, the party's over.
They leave, they'll all go downtown and meet somewhere and.
Going to Oscar Blues across the street, yeah.
And then you guys will come up. I've already ordered your nameplates for your tables. I've ordered your personalized gavel. If any of you have name requests, I put them as they were on, it'll be, nobody has 2 names, right? Of this group. No, okay. So we will talk about seating, you and I. That sounds really silly, but we will talk about that. We do not want all of the men on one side and all, you know, you have to be aware, there's just visual things there. So Like, I do remember, we had a trustee that was always hot. And they said, I have to be by that door, cause that's the
Yeah.
only door.
Yeah.
Yeah, or, I use the bathroom a lot, I gotta be, I don't want, whatever. So we know that this seat has the worst view of the TV, right? We know that, Lee's been there as the newbie. So, one of you might have. But anyway, so you will come up, just be seated. For this meeting, it's actually the clerk who calls the meeting to order because you haven't been sworn in yet. Judge Brown will be here in person. She will ask you to stand and raise your right hand, and she will give you the oath of office. So if any of you want to see that ahead of time, I'm happy to. It's basically that you are taking an oath to follow the US Constitution, the state constitution, and the town of Lyons. So you'll be sworn in, people will clap and take a picture too, and then you will still be seated. Okay?
I do want us all to stand this time.
Yeah,
Cause there was some social media tracks, all kinds of stuff. There's some comment on social media that one of the trustees refused to stand for the judge last time, which that's, I went, what? I don't remember that. Actually went back and looked at the video. We were all seated. So, let's all stand
Yeah,
this time.
let that
so we don't
stuff
have
go.
any issues.
You'll do your standard roll call approval of the agenda, which is minimal, but it'll give you some practice with making a motion and seconding. Take advantage of that, especially newbies, right? Just, those are easy ones to do, so. Make a motion a second. We will show you how to run the levers for voting, because those are kind of down there. You do have a very small little drawer if you want to leave some things there, okay? The mayor will make appointment of the mayor pro tem, however, she won't be here. So, I'm not sure how we're gonna, do we hold
I think you
this?
hold it, yeah, cause she's not seated.
She can be sworn in remotely, right? I was gonna. ask.
No, she said she was unable to,
Maybe
but
so, yeah.
Brandon and I have talked about this, and he said the term starts 4/20. She just won't be
Be sworn
sworn
in.
in, so she will have 2 absences already on the books by the time she is seated.
But
It has to be that way, otherwise you could just never get sworn
People
in.
could say, oh, I'm gonna take summer off, I'll join you in August.
Yeah.
So, no, he said the term starts
Yeah.
August or April 20.
What
So-
rules on absence?
Is there what?
There are rules now, so I think it's in the legislative policy
You'll
that
see
may
it, yeah.
change.
That's in our next session. We still have to have audience business because you are a new board, you're seated, da, da, da. You have one consent item. And that is a resolution appointing the town officers. This is in our code that every new term, you guys have to appoint the town attorney, the judge, and the clerk, and the finance director. I don't know why I'm not on that.
Because you're not required under state law.
Oh, okay.
If you don't, you're not required to have an administrator, right? So a lot of places, the clerk runs the town, basically, that's why.
Yep, so then, that's the only consent item. You'll make your verbal mayoral appointments that night to the different boards and commissions. Right now, there's no general business unless something changes. You'll be able to give a little trustee report.
I don't anticipate making any board and commission appointments on the 20th, maybe.
You don't? You wanna wait?
Probably.
Take it off?
That's.
Okay.
Probably right as you got.
That's no problem. I can take it off. No general business at this point. Trustee reports, that's a chance for you to say thank you, or you're looking forward to it, or, oh my gosh, what did I do? And then adjournment. So I really think this meeting probably will only be half hour at maximum, depending on audience business.
But
and
stuff could come up between now and then.
You never know. So. you
Probably
will-
your shortest meeting though.
But the other meeting, yeah, this will be a shortest meeting.
Why you can't?
So it does say it starts at 7, but it's actually the other board and it says you guys start when they're done. Okay, so that's what you can expect that night. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. Meeting decorum and order of business. That is also in your folder tonight. This is, the code actually outlines the order of business, but you have the ability to set that differently with each term. I don't think you're gonna be ready to do that on your first meeting, but maybe in May. But I think the mayor-elect was hoping you'd take a look. Is it functioning well? Some boards have had
Trustee report.
trustee reports at the very beginning. They've had our staff reports at the very end. Some have pushed audience after ordinances.
Some people push audience into the meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah,
To prove. Mhm. Yeah,
every
so,
place is different.
so no decisions right now, just want you to know, we need to look at this, think about it, because we need to decide.
Yeah, yeah, and probably not the first meeting.
No, I know.
And-
And May 4th is, after today, you and I haven't talked, I have like 8
May
items.
4th, there's gonna be, well, out there. But one thing you'll see in the legislative policy changes that I've drafted up is, we've seen this happen a lot of time, and it's never actually in the rules, that if we've got some hot topic, that there's 25 people here. It's been kind of like done by custom, but I'd like to provide for them is, we can move that up right at the first of the meeting.
Yeah, that's why
All those people sit here.
approval of agendas right at the front. So if you guys decide, no, we're gonna move this, we have a full house we didn't expect, you can do that night without breaking any rules. Meeting decorum, there is a whole policy on that as well, so start looking at that, see if you wanna change anything there.
And it's in the ethics code too, there's a lot of stuff in the ethics, there's ethics code
I
about
think we need
conflicts
to
of interest
review ethics code. It's
and
been-
finances and all that. A lot of the ethics code also has stuff, it's like Boy Scout, Girl Scout rules of conduct, which is kind of not really ethics.
Mhm.
There's decorum stuff in there. Technically, if you roll your eyes on the dais, you can be held in violation of the ethics code. There's some, it needs some work, but I haven't.
So the ethics code is 19
Not right.
pages long. It was written like 6 months before I got here, after a really bad.
We amended it in 2018.
We did, yeah.
A little bit.
It was, things, people react after bad situations. So this is when I'd really be great if this group wanted to tackle it this year and get it down to something more reasonable.
I started that 2 or 3 times and put it aside.
No, it's
And
hard.
not recently.
And all my staff have to sign this too, and it takes a lot.
There are actually some free, I'm actually have some kinds of stories, because there's small free speech issues in there. When if you read it, think about what it tells you about what you can say as a trustee. Wait, I should be able to do that, but
Okay,
it needs work, but
Yep.
not right now.
and then this is the one, Mayor-elect was hoping to get to early on in your seating, hopefully in May. This is the legislative policy, and he has some ideas of what he'd like to suggest, but you guys also suggest. And then hopefully, by May or June, we can address some of these housekeeping things of how you guys want to operate as a group. Okay, that's what these cover, and we'd like to do those as early on as we can, so we all know rules and the boundaries and how we're gonna hold ourselves accountable to each other.
That seems like boring routine stuff, but there have been times in the past where we end up with arguments. Policy says this, it says that. See if we can nail it down up front, so
Yep.
we don't have those for months.
So that's just a few of them. The last item in your packet, that is trying to gear us up for your next orientation session is, just some questions to think about. I think it would be good for all of us to just sit and think about what are some really good things we're proud of in Lions that have happened? What things could be working more effectively in Lions? What's holding us back from being all that we could be? Kind of like a SWOT analysis, but just on your own. Are there policies, initiatives, or issues that you want to cover? Not only just projects, we always talk about wildfire, infrastructure, housing. And it's like, are there other initiatives we want to be thinking about? And then, try to imagine yourself in 2028, when we're doing this with another group. What do you want to walk out of here actually saying you got done? Because there is so much to be done, and every person you talk to has something different. And we can't do it all. We just can't do it all. And so we are gonna have to prioritize that. So think about, what is it you really want to be able to say, walk by and go, I'm really proud I was part of that, And then a dreaming question, if we didn't have limited resources, what would we do? And then what I went ahead and did with staff is I went and put, this is again, just for you to think beyond, because we have heard those three areas so much: wildfire, infrastructure, housing. What areas do you want to put your energy behind? This is where I hope to get some guidance to our boards and commissions. So I have a section called land use, a section called environment, a section called open space and trails, transportation, economic development, and listed some things. And so maybe as you go through this, you come up with whatever system you want to use, just an X, or if you want to ABC it, or 1, 2, 3 it. But just to get you kind of thinking, a little more specific in some of these areas. I can tell you oftentimes the groups that aren't the ones that have to meet twice a month, they're like, what should we be working? So let's give them some things to work on. And so this is just kind of to get you thinking how broad of need we have. And where do we want to put our energy? So because I think I heard at the forums, everybody, wildfire and infrastructure is very, very important. However, we also have a quality of life here we need to try to retain. And, how do we do that? So this is really just a thinking document for you guys. But I think the mayor-elect is going to be saying, they usually give me a list of goals and priorities they want me to help you get accomplished. And it can't be 56 of them. We really gotta.
And the last couple of times, we've tried to list our top 3.
Right.
3 or 4.
We should go 5. And we should probably, I don't know if we do that at a retreat that we've done.
We've done it at retreats. Yeah.
Jen, that pre-arranged trip, as everybody probably knows, I'd like her to be back before we do that.
Of course,
I like
yeah.
the full board.
You need the full board. And we have outside resources to use. CML offers facilitators. CIRSA, our risk managers, offer facilitators. The Denver Regional Council of Governments that we belong to. So we have people, so it's not me and Brandon droning on all the time, but we have people that can come in who do this all around the state. So if we get stuck, we have a helper. But we have a pretty tight budget. I don't know if you saw Cassie's, she probably just sent it to the current board.
Oh, yeah.
Monday's
Yeah.
meeting, we were behind on sales tax by 5%. This month, went up 23%.
We had a couple of big things come in.
Yeah, what does that mean? Is that like a?
Big purchases.
We had a few very large luxury purchases this month.
Away from.
Delivered to Lions, that's all I know. And,
One-time large purchases that.
so sales tax now for the rest of the year is gonna be skewed.
It's your Lamborghini, that's what it was.
I can use that.
Right.
Not even that.
Yeah, you're right.
I know, cause I thought, is that like
Yeah,
RV?
other things,
Lamborghini?
very expensive things are
Oh,
not,
no.
yes.
So, but when she takes out that anomaly, sales tax did go up 4,000 this month. So it is actually 4%. So we're back in line. We're back in line year
Which
to
is
date.
surprising. Yeah.
But, yeah,
We're an outlier on that.
Yeah, and everyone else is hurting.
actually, we're gonna follow up, cause I'm like, are you sure that it's not supposed to be lying somewhere else? Cause,
It's also been
It's hard.
unseasonably warm, so like
Where else been
a
on?
lot more like patio occupancy happening. Does it normally have?
well, when you look at 23,000 in just 4% sales tax, the purchase was over $500,000.
I can't do the math.
I can't, those numbers are.
I know, somebody got a new house furniture or something.
Tell Cassie I'm gonna warn her when I have to buy my new windows. It's gonna be a bump.
Yeah, you know, she was like,
Wow.
Or an increase.
I can think of meters.
No, those would be
Use
use
tax.
taxes.
Oh, it's a.
Somebody bought a house that- No, I don't know.
Very large purchases,
Sauna.
that's all we can talk.
That's all we know.
Doesn't know.
Someone hit the lottery and bought a bunch of stuff.
Love them or hate them,
That'll be use tax.
everybody knows.
It's
Love 'em or
not a
hate 'em.
car,
Amazon's
yeah, it's
number one
something
tax
else.
payer.
That's true.
Yeah, the use tax was car.
And it ain't even close. Amazon's are.
Airplane park use tax too, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's one of those that only Cassie. So.
Yeah.
But you never know. You might-
Very well done, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, okay, oh, so how
Night.
available?
Good night, Amy.
When
Hold on
Cassie's
one
here.
second. I gotta schedule
Thank
things.
you, Amy, hit.
You said on the
So-
20th, the
Yeah.
day or two after the meeting.
She is, I didn't bring my pen. She was wondering if people could do basic finance, doesn't have to be this long. But government finance is, so different and we are so tight in that area. So,
We're off share, so we're good.
she is thinking.
So that's during the day, is that what she is, that's when she's.
She's here overnight for that week. She was thinking, is it possible, I know you have your meeting the 20th, the 21st. And 5, I don't, what's your day schedule?
It's
How-
usually 8 to 5, but
8 to 5?
I can, there are usually days I can,
Okay,
so I can
and
be here
Amy's
after.
off now, right?
Did you leave?